Hello again, everybody. And today we are going to be doing cataloging an item from scratch. Actually, a couple items. We're going to do two. I'm calling this copy cataloging, but in fact, it could be original cataloging too. It doesn't really matter because in both cases, the record will be coming from OCLC. You can think of it as cataloging in a more generic sense. We're going to do two types of things. We are going to do an electronic resource, and we are going to do a multi-volume set. In both cases, I am going to pretend that there is no record at all in Folio. Now, I realize for most of you that is not your usual workflow. There usually will be some sort of record in Folio, but I want to make sure that you see what this looks like as well as the overlay. So it's going to be a little different from overlay, but the end result is about the same. Okay. So let us go ahead. We will go to OCLC here. Hopefully it's awake and going. And of course, the search is right underneath my stop share button underneath. Okay, so we're going to search. We know what this number is because we know, obviously. So we do our search in OCLC. Obviously, we would not be searching on the number because otherwise I could just take the number. But this just speeds things up just a little bit. I got to move that over. And we want to get the OCLC number in order to load it into Folio. So we're going to go there, up there, and copy it. You can see this is this is my wrong record. This is not the record I wanted. Darn. Okay, let's get the record I want. I want 124. Okay, see, it's always good to look at the record before you load it. Okay, as you can see, this is one online resource of a single book. And notice this is an electronic resource record. It is not a print record on which an electronic resource has been stuck on. At least here in metadata, we are no longer doing that. That it's going to have its own record as it always should have done. So here we are. We have copied our number. We'll go to inventory, and I got to move this out of the way again. Okay, and actions, we're going to import. Notice there isn't the import and overlay, obviously, because I don't have anything up to overlay. So therefore, we're just going to be importing. But it comes up with the exact same little thing. We put our number in, and we import. And we wait a moment while it ponders the wonders of this record. And there we are. We have imported our record. Now, one thing I want you to notice right away, there's no save button here. This is saved as soon as it's brought into the system. Okay, so do check your record before you bring it in. Make sure it's the record you want because it'll be in the system forever unless you overlay it with something else. And also, just so you can see, you notice that it says has new instance HRID, of course. It has a source of mark. And so, yes, it not only brought in an instance record, but you also have a mark record here. Zoom does not scroll very well, so let you see it slowly. Even a PCC record. So we've got our record in, and we're looking at this and make sure it's okay. I guess we especially want to make sure that the 856 looks okay. We don't usually have overdrive, but I would presume, Greta, that is not a bad 856.
Yeah, so what do you do if it was your source?
I did not get any of that sort.
But we know. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Assuming we get it from oversource.
Well, yes, obviously. But we picked this, so it's now remember, if you wanted to add a new field to this, you can hit the plus button and you can add some sort of 246 here if you want to. I don't know what we'd be adding, something like I don't know. We just call it wild build. How about that? That would be a portion of title, so that would be a 30, I think. So we could do any of the edits we need to do in this if we want to. And also notice we do have an 006 here and an 007, and they are formatted. So if you need to update them, you can do that. Or add a new one. It's interesting if you want to add, say, a new 006. It looks like, oops, where'd it go?
You just deleted it.
I just deleted it. Look at that. So now I do have to add in a new 006, don't I? That's one thing you have to be very careful of, is that the delete field and the add field are right beside each other. And if you're only using a trackpad like I am at the moment, that can cause you difficulties, as you just saw. I meant to do that, of course.
Nancy, there's an undo button in the field where it's black all the way across. At the very right is undo. If you click that,
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I do say that. Okay. I just wanted to actually just show what adding an 006 would look like anyway. So I'm going to notice when I typed in 006, it came up with this type, which you also see in the 007. And this is where you can choose what type of 006 you're wanting to put in. That part, at least, is extremely user-friendly. The actual values you put in, you need to go to one of Greta's wonderful cheat sheets in order to do that. And don't be embarrassed in doing so. I was a music cataloger for 18 years, and I used cheat sheets for my 006 and 007 the entire time I cataloged. So, but at least this will tell you what kind of 006 you're going to get. And yes, as Jeanette helpfully pointed out, it says it has been deleted, and you can actually undo, which actually is a nice feature given the proximity of the plus sign in the garbage can. So before I completely ruin this mark record, we are going to go out of it. Oops. I'm going to close without saving because it wasn't really anything important. Okay. So we have our title fully cataloged, but of course we don't have any holdings data or any of that. So we're going to go to add holdings. And we are going to select a holdings type. This is somewhat new that we've added. These are rather like what we had in Symphony, except some of them have been somewhat renamed. I notice we have book and monograph now. Interesting. Archival collection used to be manuscript, I can tell you that, but what we are looking at here is electronic, because this is an electronic resource. It's an online resource. So we're going to put that in, the holdings type. We have to put in a permanent location. And a permanent location for a electronic resource is Sewell Electronic. So it's a library of Sewell, and its permanent location is electronic. Okay. And is there anything else we have to do in holdings? I always forget. No. Okay, so that's all we have to do with holdings, I think. Did I forget something? I don't think so. No. Notice we did not put in a call number. That's what I meant to tell you. Is there's no call number for an electronic resource. So we now accept my smaller there. Let me do it looking at it. Oh, that's why, because this screen share thing is there. Okay, we will save and close. And we see our holdings has been successfully saved. Our holdings is Sewell Electronic. And voila, we have cataloged it. The one thing I forgot to do, of course, is to go back here and move my Zoom thing again. We're going to put our instance status as cataloged. Well, we'll add a statistical code when we get it. We're just talking about those today. And we're going to add a administrative note that will look something like metadata MP and warmer 23 0724. I'm not saying that's exactly what it's like, but something like that. And save and close. And that is all you have to do with an electronic resource for a single item. Note that there is no item record for this. You only have holdings, and it will show up in correctly in SearchWorks. And so actually doing a single ebook is actually pretty darn easy. There's not too much you have to do. Are there any questions about that one?
No mode of issuance?
Oh, did I not put in?
No, is there? I don't know.
Well,
I have that as a question on
if
my.
it was in the source record, yes. Right?
Well, over there, yes, a single unit.
Yeah.
So it
So
will be
the
filled in
question was, is there
automatically.
mode of issuance? Yes, and this came from the MARC record. So
Okay.
we can't change it. Yes, David.
I noticed the info and administrative note is basically what we put in our 910s. Will that field be used for other purposes?
The administrative note, yes, it will. Which is why we're going to have very particular ways of doing that note. And yes, I probably should have said it was cataloged by somewhere here too. As I say, this isn't the real note. This is something close, but we are making some changes to those notes, but yes, it's basically equivalent to what would have been in the 910. But we do also, oh, and I forgot to put the catalog date as well. Sometimes the order you do these things in takes a bit of practice. Okay. So are there any questions from Zoom about that? Just yell out because oh, there's something in the chat. Use undo, yeah. Oh, Control T will copy the OCLC record number from anywhere in the record. Okay, thank you, Margaret. Will we still need catalog date as in Symphony? And yes, we do need catalog to date. Thank you both, Benjamin and Bing. As you notice, I did just put it in. That's where you're supposed to yell out at me and say, put in the catalog date, silly. But anyway, so yes, it is in there now, as we can see. As I say, when you're doing something like this, you sort of have to decide which way you are cataloging something. I have a tendency still to want to put the date cataloged and my name when I finished everything. But that doesn't actually work very well with this workflow because it's in an instance record. You put that in, not in the volume or in the holdings or in the item record. Of course, there's no item record here. So that's why I didn't put it in at first, and it's probably better just to put it in while you can, so you don't forget to do it like I did just now. All right, so that was a nice, simple electronic resource. We're going to do another. I'm going to get rid of this. You're going to go back to OCLC. It's going to do that stupid thing with me again. And I know there are wondrous ways to do things, fix that, but I'm just going to go back in it again. And you'll have to put up with my terrible OCLC, which is over here.
Oh.
Yeah, most of my stuff is not set up on OCLC, so I don't have any. I have a bunch of former things that no longer exist on it. Okay, we're going to go search again. Search in WorldCat. This time we are going to the one I meant to first of all. This one. So you say Control T, Margaret. Is that the case?
Works for me.
Doesn't have a lot of feedback.
I know it's stealthy that way. Because I couldn't believe, I was like, that didn't work, did it? But trust me, it always works.
Okay, I'm going to trust you. Okay, trusting Margaret, we will go to import. And we will say Control V, and look at that. So I really think they could give you a little feedback.
I agree, a pop-up toast.
Yes.
So just to clarify, the Control T is both for copy and for paste?
No, the Control T in OCLC copies the OCLC number.
Right.
Here I did Control V as in your usual Windows
Oh,
paste.
when you paste.
Yeah, when I pasted it. Yeah. Yeah, because this is a different system. Trust OCLC to have its copy to be something else than everybody else. Okay, so and we didn't look at this record very closely.
Copy C does.
Never mind. Okay, we will look at it in inventory. Now this one is inspired by, though not same as, something that Margaret had on her desk yesterday. So, and here we go. So we have the Hunger Games trilogy. We are going to take a look at the MARC record again. Things are going a little slowly. Yeah, better come up. Please come up. There we go. Alrighty. So here's, and you can see that this is not electronic resource already. It is a book. And you might notice by now it is a 3-volume set in this case. And it is a very full record. Except one thing it does not have this record is an 050. So we're going to add that. Shoot. And it's 4, right? Is that correct? Is that the right place? Yeah. Okay. And it's PS 3603. 455. So it'll be each 6. Okay, all my catalogers, do I have that right? I don't know what I managed to do with these 2 other fields. So, we're also going to copy that. Oops. I managed to empty out 2 fields or something, add 2 fields extra. I say this is very hard to do with a trackpad. Oh, the OAT. I didn't want to do the OAT. It's this is not. I do not recommend doing this with a trackpad. Working in the quick mark with trackpad. That is the moral of that story. Okay. So we will go update our instance. We're going to edit our instance here. Just, I'm going to do it in this order now because I find I forget to do it otherwise, as you've noticed. We're going to put the catalog date. We're going to say it's cataloged. Notice we have a mode of issuance, but it's wrong.
I was noticing that.
So we'll look at that in a moment. What did I say? Catalog. Metadata. I don't know what it is. Okay, now with that, we noticed that our mode of issuance was incorrect. So we're going to see if we can do something about that. We are going to go into edit the mark record. Yeah, it should be down here. We have a mode of issuance. And that's probably why. Because we don't have one, right? Where does mode of issuance come?
I don't know where it's populating that.
Neither do I. Probably means.
No.
Maybe it's from the date type.
Yeah, well, we would have to change. The date type is S because it all came out at once. So, well, that's an interesting conundrum we'll have to look into. I don't think we necessarily have time to do that right now.
Didn't they have a drop-down menu at the end of the mode of issuance? But it was grayed out too. So
It's grayed out, yeah.
It's grayed in. It has a drop-down. That's confusing.
What's a little leader?
Yes. I don't know if it's pulling something from the leader or if it's deciding everything is single unless it's a serial.
Well, we're not going to worry about it right now, okay? If you can't do anything to it, you can't do anything to it, and that's about it, right? So, all right, so we are going to add some holdings, though. Again, we have this. We're going to at least pick the holdings type to be correct and say it's Are we saying these are books or monographs now? I'm not quite sure what we're doing, but we're going to say this is a multi-part monograph right now. We do the usual, pick a, and you might notice that I was typing in the location to get down to it. Just remember when you get to Sal 3 that it's not your search is not left weighted there, so you get everything that says Sal 3, so make sure if you're actually meeting Sewell's Sal 3 stacks, that you actually pick Sal's, or the Sal 3 stacks from Sewell as opposed to the one in Law or Lane. Okay, so we've got our location. We're going to put in the Library of Congress classification, which I cleverly copied. Notice though, we still have that subfield B in there, which we do not want. So we're going to take that out. But otherwise, we can leave that call number exactly as it is. We have ascertained you do not have to put a space in here at all.
Same thing if there's only one cutter.
I believe so, yes. Because generally that's how it's done at LC. All right, now, remember we have a multi-volume set here though. And we are going to add a holding statement. We are going to go here to add holding statement. And we are going to say we have volume 1 to 3. Just like you would in a Mark Holdings record, except there are no Mark fields in order to do anything with it.
Nancy,
Yes,
does that mean it's decided that we will not add more things for
yes,
both monographs and serials? We won't add Mark Holdings.
yes, it's mostly decided unless something terrible happens in SearchWorks. When I tried too much more. Hasn't so far, but
What about when these things come up for update to the Mark Holdings? Will we take
that is different. And that will be another day, okay? But for new things, and particularly for simple things like multi-volume sets, added materials and all that, just keep it simple and put a holding statement in the folio holdings. You looked like you were going to ask a question, David.
Oh, not anymore.
Okay. Oh, okay. You mean I answered a question? Oh, good.
So the holdings, okay, I'm looking at the holdings.
Well, notice we have a holding statement for supplements,
Ooh,
and holding statement for indexes. This is equivalent to the 866. This is equivalent to the 867. And this is equivalent to the 868. Okay. So
You can also add the notes there in the same way.
which note? What do you mean?
I mean, like where you usually put the note in the Mark Holdings. They're like 852 in the subfield Z, I think.
You mean this?
You can
want
put it in
Yeah, there isn't a holding statement for this, so this would be
like with serials, it might be like found with previous title or something.
well, I will just say shelved by title or something, whatever, yeah, or bound together. You could have said or something like this.
back on the call number, are we doing call number type?
I did do call number type.
Okay, I missed that.
Of course, you must have call number type.
Okay.
I don't think there's even a choice. So yes, the holding statement public note would be, the most common holding statement note we have is last issue is in whatever current periodicals is now called, which I've forgotten what that name is for it. For this though, there is no holding statement, so we won't put that in. And notice there's a public note and a staff note. The public note clearly displays to the public and would show up in SearchWorks, whereas the holding statement staff note would not show up in SearchWorks.
And we're not doing copy number?
Not in holdings. For sure. Okay, So we have our holdings added. We're cataloged, but we still don't have any items. So we need to add our items. And here you would put in your barcode, which of course I'm doing by hand, but you would not do that. Item data, it's a book in this case. We haven't really decided what we're doing about copy numbers. You can put in a copy number if you want, it won't hurt anybody. One good thing to put in is the number of pieces though, which is 1 in this case, because we're doing 1 volume, right? So this will be volume 1 again. As we know, we're not using chronology or volume, even though this looks like it should be under volume. We're going to save. Whoops, and we forgot to put in our loan type as we usually do. And we can say it can circulate, and we will save and close. And then we need to add another item for our next. Use this 105. Blah, 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 blah. Again, material book type is a book. This is copy number 1. Number of pieces 1. Numeration data volume 2. And I'm not going to put in volume 3 this time. And again, I forget the loan type, but at least it reminds me every time.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
about the enumeration, I remember previously there was some, like when Kay did her presentation, there was some question about, do we want to follow these conventions of like all caps, or if we're just gonna continue?
Yeah,
you
it
know.
looks like it doesn't matter and that we can go to what is generally normal in libraries and have that small. Though, if you're continuing something that already exists, I would follow what was being done previously.
Mhm.
I thought you were going to remind me the one thing I forgot about, which was the temporary location, because this is still in process. So this is SOL TS processing.
That's in which piece of the record?
This is in the item record.
So you put in.
And just for y'all to notice, the good reason I put this in is I put a permanent location in the holdings. I have not put the permanent location in the item. It doesn't matter if you also put the permanent location in the item, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to repeat yourself. If there's no permanent location in the holdings, in the item, then it will use the permanent location that it finds in the holdings. And SearchWorks will do that as well. I'm putting this temporary location in the item because it's quite possible that volume 1, which is actually true with this, has already gone to the stacks, and so it no longer has a temporary location. So your temporary location needs to be specific to the barcoded item, right? Because your other volume may be in a different place. And so we will then save and close once again. And so you see we have our call number there. And I'll just stretch this across and see everything. And you'll notice that we have our barcodes, which are very strange barcodes, I will agree. One's in SAL3 stacks, one's SOL TS processing, and we have our enumerations on volume 1 and 2.
Don't forget to check in your item that's in process.
We're not going to talk about checking in today.
But it is a step in the cataloging process, right? to show that would we do that after creating an item before sending it to the next place?
Probably yes, but let's talk about that ending bit another time.
Okay.
Okay. So I realize we don't have a huge amount of time left, but I think this is the first time we've actually gone through all the way through this far. So and then it will change a little depending on what unit you're in, what happens next. So we will leave that there for now, for today. So hopefully most of you actually know how to do all that now, but I thought it would be good to clarify a couple things. And I'm just wondering then if there are any questions about this. Or is anybody still even there? There are. Oh, there's 6 things in the chat. Except it looks like, okay, Kevin's suggesting leader 07 for the date of issuance. Okay, we could take a look, just a minute. Call number type goes in the holdings and not in the item record. Yes, that is true, as Kay just said. So call number type and call number go in the holdings. And yes, that is quite different from Symphony. Or as Rhea says it, the base call number goes in the holdings record. Enumeration, which was everything after the subfield C, goes in the item record. Now that does cause some problems for music who was putting things in the subfield Z that were not enumeration for very good reasons, I will hasten to add. But that's something we're going to have to figure out what to do about in the future. Yeah, so yes, Rhea, that is a good way actually of thinking of it from now on. It's thinking of that as your base call number. And any volume indications or whatever then go into the item, are associated with the item itself.
So the base call number is what we would have if we didn't have enumeration. We have a single volume thing that's not it's not an electronic resource. Do we have only the base call number and not the enumeration?
Where's my? This is fine. What's the second one? Probably the second. Yeah, this is the wrong one. I don't know which one I wanted. Here we go. Okay, so with this, yeah, that's 2. Okay, you see here we have the base call number, basically right here, right? It's the call number that applies to all the volumes. Okay. When we go into the item, then we have the enumeration over here of volume 1 and volume 2. Yes, this gets a little more confusing when you get into accession numbers, because those were done somewhat differently a lot of the time and in a variety of different ways. I would say generally if you have 2 barcoded items that require accession numbers, if there is such a thing as a base call number for them, to use that as the base call number and then put the others in enumeration. I realize this isn't going to be a real example, okay? But if you had a CD plus a DVD in a case and you had them split up, they were split up. You wanted to do the CD and the DVD. if you gave them the same accession number and then put CD and DVD after them, then you would put that in the enumeration.
And if I gave them two different numbers, I would have two different
Holdings.
holdings.
Yes.
Okay. And if I have only one, it's just a single volume thing. Do I mess with the enumeration at all, or I stop at the base call number and holdings?
If you have a single volume item, there is no enumeration, so
Okay.
there's nothing to
So I
mess
don't
with.
repeat, no, I don't repeat it over there or anything. Okay,
Right, there's nothing to mess with
Okay,
there,
fine.
because it's,
and it does not populate from the record like it currently does. For LC call numbers. When you import the record,
the call number?
it imports the.
You mean the call number?
Yeah,
Because
So
the
it does-
volume number.
right,
never
no, the
did.
volume number, but I mean the call number in the.
No, it does not.
Okay, so, all right.
It does not. And I think we had that discussion before,
Yeah,
but
I think so. I just want to make sure I remember it correctly.
remember, there's a quick mark and then there's the instance record, and you're
Mhm.
putting the call number in the instance record.
Mhm.
It doesn't map over that
Okay.
way. You'd think it should, but it doesn't.
I know a lot of stuff does, but.
But I think part of the problem, and yeah, Jessica, I see you have your hand raised, just a sec. I think part of the problem is that there's so many different types of call numbers and different setups of them that could come in to that one same spot, that it's actually fairly difficult to map over into it. That would be my guess. Jessica.
Thanks. Is there a preference if there were a scenario like Greta was explaining where we had just a CD and then we received a DVD? Or we had a DVD and then we got a Blu-ray? So we just have the item without any enumeration, and then we get, let's say, the Blu-ray. Are we then going to, as we receive another one that justifies enumeration, create a new holding, or are we going to create enumeration to distinguish?
We get
Okay,
a new record, I think.
let me just
I mean, that would be.
do something weird to this and add a holdings, because I just want to show what we're talking about here, because whoops, it's a different one. Oh, well, actually, here's one right here. So you see this one on the screen, in fact. So this came as a set. Yeah, correct.
Came all together.
Yeah, this came all together as a set. Let me just show you the instance to prove it to you. You see all those 007s, and we have here two video discs. One is Blu-ray, one is a DVD. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, yes, that's really helpful. And I'm also wondering if we got them one at a time, would we do the same thing?
Okay. Now, remember, I said this came as a set.
Yes.
The only reason we are giving them separate accession numbers is because Media Microtext puts DVDs on one shelf and Blu-rays on another shelf. So they're shelved separately, and that's why we have two different call numbers, or it was just something Media Microtext decided they wanted to do, something like that.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yep.
Now, if you got the DVD, and then you got the same title, but it was on Blu-ray, but it was published separately, you would have an entire new record for the DVD because it's a different publication. This is like a box set, the one we're talking about here. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That actually can be pretty confusing because as we were talking about the Hunger Games, it's been published separately. It comes in a box set of 3, it comes in a box set of 4, and it comes in a box set of 3 with a empty journal for you to write in, which, as you know, libraries are very fond of that kind of thing. So, yeah, it can be complicated how that works.
And now I hear they're issuing DVD cases and no DVDs in them. I don't know why, but that's fine.
Maybe that's all they can get.
I bet you want to collect it anyway, even though you're only streaming it.
Two more things in the chat. Should we be making enumerations for discs and booklet? Oh, that's a good question, Kevin.
I mean, basically,
Okay.
can we leave an enumeration blank and have one item with enumeration, the other one without, and will that be enough, or do we need to actually explicitly say this barcode is for the discs and this barcode is for the booklet that comes with the discs, but they're on the shelf, you know, right next to each other?
Right. And I will hasten to add, in this case, the booklet is actually separate from the disc itself. It might be in a box, but it is like a separate piece. That is why Kevin's asking about that particularly. If it's just a booklet inside the container, you don't usually do this. You know, I really don't know, Kevin, and I think it's something for you to look at and find out.
Okay.
My only question is how it would sort, probably, but.
Okay, I'll test it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to do that? And is there a
I mean,
reason?
there are
not to?
thousands of these without it in our
There's
calendar
thousands
already.
without it. That's amazing.
I mean,
Yeah.
50,000 of them. So, I mean, I don't know if like starting now is gonna, it would be good to not change our practice, but I'll test it and see what happens.
Okay.
And current media practice for media microtext would be to have one call number, which I guess have the number of pieces reflect the thing, but everything be under one barcode.
That's okay.
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah, it just depends how many items you have, which would be separate items of the same, with the same call number. Now, the funny thing none of you have asked me, which is the thing that really always catches me, is that enumeration volume 1 is at the same level as copy 1 and copy 2, as multiple copies. So, which is something that's very different from Symphony, is that those are at 2 different. So if I went back to mine, if I can find it. This one, this must be it. Yes, what do you know? So we have our 2 holdings here, but actually say we have a second copy of volume 1 for some reason or other. And we have another barcode. And it's still a material type book. I'm going to say this is copy number 2, just to keep it clear for a moment. Just one reason I'm wondering if we should use copy numbers, because this gets kind of weird. This is volume 1. And we're going to leave the loan type for now. Oh, we got to do that part. Can circulate. Okay, I'm not going to worry about temporary location here at the moment. So now, if I go to view my holdings, see we have 2 copies, copy 1 and copy 2, and enumeration. at the same level.
So what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just confusing to us who have used Symphony for 25 plus years. Because it was at a very different level in Symphony. There were two different levels in Symphony.
At least it does display the copy number, so you can. you
Well,
don't have to
I
go
put
in.
in that copy number though manually.
Uh-huh.
So, and we haven't actually decided whether we're using copy numbers yet. Because you have to put them in manually, which is kind of awkward.
Or if you defaulted and didn't put in copy 1, but you did put in copy 2.
But then you would have blank, blank 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
like 2?
it's a possibility, but it's something, I think this is kind of almost a good reason to put in copy numbers. I don't know what anyone else thinks or if anyone else has an opinion on the matter, but this is still something that is open to a question of a best practice locally of what we do with this. I mean, obviously, we would keep the copy numbers. If we did add them, they would be per holding as opposed to trying to do it across different holdings. I mean, we had multiple holdings of this and tried to make a copy 1 and copy 2, that would be terrible to try and do.
But
Well, in that case, when you transfer things, you would have to manually go in and change it. So like when everything ends up in South 3, you'd have to go
Yeah.
change all of them.
If you put the extra copy in cell 3 and kept the first copy where it was, then it wouldn't be copy 2 anymore because they'd be on different.
Yeah.
I
So
think if we use them, we shouldn't depend on them because I just find that things that aren't added automatically, just people forget them, or when they're supposed to update them, they don't, and then something like that will quickly get like really tangled and messed up, and you don't know what's what anymore.
And on the things that migrated, do they have copy numbers?
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
if they had copy numbers, yes.
Okay.
And they all did, so yes, they did. And I hope everyone out there can actually hear what Greta and Harold are saying, because so yes, everything that was migrated has a copy number because Symphony automatically puts in a copy number. So you may have multiple copy 1s in a record because we didn't do much updating there either. Here, yeah, I mean, Harold is completely correct. This is completely unreliable. And if you then transfer that copy 2 to well, it's already in South 3 stacks, but it's like maybe, oh, that was meant to be in the HAS reading room or something like that, not in South 3 stacks, then it would either stay copy 2 and be a low copy 2, or you'd have to change it to copy 1 when you transferred it, which would also have to be done manually, which is not perhaps the best idea. So it's just, it so sticks out there in the display that it takes up a lot of room, a lot more than it should.
Of course, since they have barcodes, you could just rely on the barcode to disambiguate which
Yes, you can.
piece it is.
And of course, we do that. We do that, certainly. And that will always be your best disambiguation. And the nice thing, at least barcodes are very easy to copy too. So all you have to do is click on that.
What would you do then if you didn't have a copy, if you need to note that copy 2 is signed or is missing the cover or
You could use the barcode in the note instead of saying copy number like we've been doing with the subfield D. But I remember there was also some discussion, which I thought was a good idea, that we would just put that in the item record instead of putting it.
Yeah.
yeah.
We
not
have
with
to
no
see
items.
whether, I mean, there are plenty of places here for item notes.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you have a place for an item note that's, do we want it human readable in the catalog for,
Well, you're,
because in that case, we probably want the borrower to know.
if we go to edit item, we go down to item notes. Now, this is something we don't know how well this, we don't know if we've checked to see how this looks in search works.
Because we're still waiting for that piece, right?
Well, it's available to, Griffin Search has it. I have it, actually. It's not generally yet. So item notes, I keep losing them. We have notes. We have types of notes. This is where we're going to put notes about being withdrawn or transferred. All the tech staff notes are being transferred here. All the public notes are being transferred here that we already have. This could potentially also be a place to put a note. How well that shows up, I don't know. And of course, you wouldn't really want a very long one because it would be under the item, it would be under the item thing in, you couldn't put a long 590 note saying, that describes the binding in fine detail, from what you got from the bookseller or something. It would probably be much too long in there. But it's something for us all to experiment with once it comes. Notice there is a thing that you click to say whether it's staff only or not. And that's what hides it. If it's staff only, it will not appear in SearchWorks. Alrighty, so those are item notes. And you notice once you open it, it's required unless you get rid of it. All right, are there any other questions? It is 3 o'clock. I'm going to, I don't think I see anything more in the chat. So that is it for the day. And thank you very much, everybody. And I will stop sharing so I can see all your lovely faces. And say goodbye for today. Right, bye-bye all. Bye, thank you.